If worldwide affairs have a place in your day, this is the place you will want to stay. The Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast with your host, world-renowned voice of Garvey and global news commentator, Ron Bobb-Semple.
Greetings and welcome to the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast. We will be addressing global issues that impact our day-to-day lives.
We've been having this discussion for more than 20 years, and the truth is that it is important to us that we give confidence to our young people, to that little boy, that little girl, to believe that they can become and aspire to become the head of state of their own country. I think that that is an important symbol and an important confidence boosting measure. We have, at the best, produced people at all levels who have made global contributions. I think you are aware of people like Sir Garfield Sobers and Sir Everton Weekes in cricket, Rihanna. We had Dame Nita Barrow, who was a part of the Eminent Persons Group. At a political level, we had our founder leaders, Sir Grantley Adams and Errol Barrow. We have been independent for almost 54 years this November. And the truth is that the time has come for us to continue to make decisions fully on our own. It's not a divisive decision. It's not a decision that is reflective of any break with the monarchy or any disrespect. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have an excellent relationship with the United Kingdom, with the royal family, and we believe that the time has just come for us to boost the confidence of our people.
That was Maya Amor Motley, the current Prime Minister of Barbados and leader of the Barbados Labour Party. She is the 8th person to hold the position of Prime Minister and the first woman to hold either position. The 166 square miles island nation, which has a population of approximately 300,000 people, gained its independence from Britain on November 30th, 1966. Barbados will be the first country in almost 3 decades to sever ties with the British royal family in November 2021. The last country to make that decision was Mauritius on March 12, 1992. Mauritius, arguably Africa's wealthiest destination, is located off the southeast coast of the continent in the Indian Ocean. Joining me from the island of Barbados is Pan-Africanist and social activist, the Reverend Buddy Aaron Larrier. He's also the General Secretary at the Non-State Actors Reparations Commission. What is also unique about my guest is that he was born on the same date as his mother and his grandmother. Buddy Larrier, welcome to the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast.
Thank you, Ron. It's good seeing you after such a long time.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Now, in addition to what I just mentioned, Buddy, please give us a brief history of what other contributions you have made growing up in Bimshire, the nickname for Barbados.
My contribution growing up in Barbados could be summarized like all young people growing up in the Caribbean. Your belief in God, you went to church, you obey your parents. And then in 1955, Barbados experienced a hurricane called Hurricane Janet. Hurricane Janet transformed the lives of Barbadians and Barbados as a whole. It claimed the lives of 38 persons. And the area I live in, which is called Oistins, which is a fishing community village, it was devastated. And 2 of the 38 persons who died were fisher folks, and they went missing at sea. Among them was my father, Darnell de Costa Larrier. So because of the devastation to Barbados and the fact that this transformed Barbados, my family, devastated because of my father lost his life and left my mother with 9 children, the government came to our rescue. I was still at what we would call what was called secondary school. That's a period because I was 12 years old. And then I went to apprenticeship training as a tailor, supported by the government. And then when I was 20 years old, by that time I had become a self-employed tailor. And then the government of England started this recruiting drive, or about that time, saying the mother country needs you. And I was recruited from Barbados to work with London Transport as a bus conductor. So that's the period of my life in Barbados, and what led to me going to England when I did in 1963.
Of course, when you said mother country, you weren't referring to the continent of Africa, but the mother country, United Kingdom, as they were the mother country to Barbados at that time.
Yes.
After 341 years of British rule, your country has now decided to end the Queen of England being its head of state. Why now?
The timing is perfect because the world is being transformed. And the world is being transformed. There's a consciousness, a raising of consciousness. But this has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with economics. It is simply a transformation of the mind. Nothing like this has taken place before. We're simultaneously, because of COVID and the Black Lives Matter, when those two are combined, every person in the world today are going through, let's say, mental changes. So Barbados moving away from the Queen is part of that. But there's a deeper significance to Barbados moving away from Britain as part of the COVID and Black Lives Matter. The reason for this is because Barbados is unique in the process of that transformation. In 1627, when Barbados was colonized and acted as a surrogate of England, it was a transformation. Barbados was used as a transshipment point because it was so important to Britain, yes? But the founding of Barbados, when Barbados started, it started with 80 white men from England and 10 African men who landed on Barbados on the same ship because the 10 Africans were rescued from a Portuguese ship after the British and the Portuguese went to war. Well, you know, at that time, once two European nation ships or vessels are seen in the same area, they go to war, because that was a period of time of trying to colonize the Caribbean. Yes? The scramble for the Caribbean, just like we had later had the scramble for Africa, the same principle. What was unique is that no female were present on Barbados at the time, because the people who had lived in Barbados, because of what was going on in the Caribbean, and Barbados being a flat island, the people moved out and went down to St. Vincent, those who were not forced long before the British came. So that is one school of thought. Another school of thought is that most of them were taken from Barbados and enslaved by the Portuguese and the Spaniards. So there are a number of thoughts. But the fact remains is that when the British landed, there were no people on the island. So Barbados development started without the presence of the female. And that is why it's unique that the first group of people that were indentured servants were from England, Scotland, and Wales to start the development. But during that time, Britain also had to buy black people who were enslaved in other countries to Barbados.
When Barbados becomes a republic next year, November, will the parliamentary system of government be retained?
The changes we're talking about is going to be different, because for the first time Barbados will have a female prime minister, because there's no question about it. Right now the two main parties in Barbados, the Barbados Labour Party, run by the present prime minister, and the Democratic Labour Party, run by another female, Verna de Pisa. Now, when the election comes, one of those two parties is going to win the election, and a female is going to be prime minister. That's 2023. So we then have, by 2027, when we will be celebrating the 400th anniversary of Barbados founding as a colony, or the Prime Minister will be a woman. The changes that is going to take place in the parliamentary system. At the moment, Ron, almost every politician that entered politics in Barbados, the Honorable Errol Barrow made the statement that the desire is to become a sir or a dame. So you could just imagine, come next year, that will come to an end. There'll be no more sirs. And as a matter of fact, this was in the making since last year, because last year on Independence Day, the 30th of November, the Prime Minister Montley did something that was revolutionary. She removed the highest honor of Barbados, which is a sir or dame, and she bestowed the highest honor as the most honorable, and give that to female and a male in Barbados, as if she was preparing Barbadians for what we are now being informed of.
Which nation do you think, Buddy, will be on the heels of Barbados in becoming a republic? Do you think Jamaica?
Very interesting. You see, East Caribbean countries have been toiling with the idea for quite some time, because after Trinidad and Guyana became republics, it challenged the others that, look, what are we doing? Removing the Privy Council of England as the highest appeal court in the Caribbean, setting up the CCJ, which is Caribbean Court of Justice, that awakened the people of Barbados. And Jamaica took a very interesting step. They stopped, and I think it was P.J. Patterson that did it, they stopped swaying allegiance to the Queen of England.
Yes, it did.
Because all parliamentarians, when they're elected in the Caribbean, they have to swear allegiance to the Queen and her heirs, yes, instead of to the people of the country. And we have a saying that you can't serve two masters, yes? And if you have to account to the Queen, then you can account to the people as well. So one would say that Jamaica might be the first, because it has already started the process. But then there's also St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because one of the most let's say, conscious of the Caribbean prime ministers is the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez, yes. And he has been, championing the cause for a while.
You mentioned a little while ago, once Barbados becomes a republic, that there will no longer be sirs and madams. As you know, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, the 8th Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies and the Chairman of the CARICOM, the Caribbean Community Reparations Committee, has been front and center pushing for reparations for African people by Britain. When Barbados becomes a republic in next November, how would this separation, Buddy, affect the issue of reparations taken seriously by the United Kingdom? Would it increase the momentum?
My view on this is that it would increase the momentum significantly, because I have lived in England. I was not educated in England. I started from the time I landed there in 1963. I started the process of, let's say, a student of racism. As a bus conductor, you had to endure racism on a daily basis. Now, as a result of that, my understanding in England is that a British person cannot sue the Queen. She's above the law as far as legal actions are concerned. So therefore, if Barbados is still legally a colony of Britain, all the decisions we make have to go through the process of protocol through the Governor General, and then the Queen will, be informed of what is taking place. So when we become republic, the change will take place, because we will have the opportunity to start the process without the process being referred to England. You don't need to be a rocket science to understand that protocol. The Queen will not be informed formally. I said formally because, people don't cut ties so short. So formally, she will not be informed about what we're doing. Legally, she will be informed, because if they don't come to the table with some substance as far as money is concerned and procedures, we will take it to the International Court for for justice.
Well, there's a lot going on in the world, primarily with what's happening with this global pandemic and the protests that have been going on not only in the United States but around the world. And protests over the killing of George Floyd in Minnesota in the United States have led to the removal of historical statues across the U.S. as well as in Europe, most of which depict Confederate leaders. There's a movement to remove the statue of Lord Nelson in Bridgetown, the capital of Barbados, which has been registered as the first city of peace in the Caribbean. Is there a set date as to when this will happen, buddy?
If I give you a little bit of history on that, which brings us to that point, the statue of Lord Nelson is still standing in Barbados after 207 years. It was the first statue of white supremacy, very historic. And in 1999, the government of Barbados decided to have national consultation on racism. And the people of Barbados said to the committee, which was called the Committee for National Reconciliation, the committee was asked to do two things in particular as important to me. One, remove the statue of Lord Nelson. And this is now leading up to the 21st century. Yes? 1999 to 21st century is 2000. And the idea was that the people saw it, remove Lord Nelson, and get involved in the reparation movement that is developing. Those were the two radical statements. And my recommendation was, look, if you're going to remove Nelson, the best date to remove Nelson would be the 12th of October 2000. And that would start the 21st century free of the symbol of white supremacy and in Barbados and across the Caribbean. This would lead then to the easing the process towards reparation. That was my thinking. And I put forward that. Anyway, it was not taken up. 10 years after or so, the government still did not remove the statue. So in 2008, the government changed. The Democratic Labour Party came into power. And they said they were not going to move the statue, but they were going to rename the place where the statue is. Now, we call that place National Hero Square. They said they're not going to move Nelson physically, but they were going to move him out of National Hero Square and name the place where the statue is called the Cage, which was the exact place where Africans used to be sold when they come off the ship. That's the place, first point of the dehumanization of Africans when they land in Barbados, where Nelson is now. That was where it was.
I'm sure that's no coincidence, buddy.
That's not a coincidence. And it's not, I'm glad you said that, because from 1627 up to 1816, Barbadians were having, struggle for freedom, uprising, rumors of uprising, struggles and whatever. But every time the leaders think they got a plan secure, someone would betray them, and as we do, tell the white colonialists that, look, those group over there, and give a couple of names, they're planning something, so you got to take note. But in 1816, 3 years after Nelson was erected, for that 3 years, from 1813 to 1816, the planned rebellion was not betrayed. For 3 years, it was unbelievable. And in 1816, we had the Bussa Rebellion. If the Bussa Rebellion was successful, the first order of business would have been to remove that statue, because that was a symbol of not only white supremacy. They wasn't thinking about white supremacy at the time. That's a symbol of our dehumanization, right where we were. So the statue had to be removed. And we fast forward, the COVID, which is transforming the world, when you couple that with the Black Lives Matter, people are asking for radical change. People are pulling down statues around the world. Here in Barbados, we are still diplomatic. So we're not going to pull down Nelson. The idea is to move Nelson, take him down. The idea was to take him down on a date that tells part of the history of our oppression. There are 4 dates that could be summarized in the historical struggle. One is the 12th of October, where everybody know what that is about. That's when Columbus landed in the Caribbean and came back after he was helped by the black people, the Africans. Nothing significant happened on the 12th of October 1492. He was sent back after they helped him and he went back to Spain. In 1493, he was sent back with 17 warships and 1,200 mercenaries that was taken out of the prisons of Spain to take this journey to the Caribbean. And he had the blessing of the Pope. The instruction from the Pope was Christianize them if they resist, enslave them if they resist, kill them. And all 3 of those principles went into what happened from 1493, not 1492, the 12th of October. That was a day of peace and love that we show the strangers. Now, because of that history, there are only 3 other dates that is relevant. Number 1, the Haitian victory in 1801 on the 1st of January. Statue could be removed on that date, which feeds into the process. It could remove on the 14th of April or the 23rd of August, which is UNESCO's day for the remembrance of slavery and its abolition. Those are the 4 dates during the year that Barbados has a chance to remove the statue and then decide what they're going to do with it. You get what I'm saying?
First of all, thank you for that history lesson. You were instrumental in The Spirit of Marcus Garvey, presented by yours truly, appearing in Barbados several years ago. You have written and produced, in my humble opinion, my brother, a masterpiece short film highlighting a conversation between Admiral Lord Nelson and the father of the nation of Barbados, Errol Barrow. That film is entitled The Spirits Speak. And I'm going to give you listeners an opportunity to listen to this film. Here's the audio version of the film. And of course, there's dialogue between Lord Nelson and Errol Barrow, and there's also dancers involved. So you'll be hearing a lot of music and dialogue. So for your listening pleasure, here is The Spirits Speak.
Spirits Speak production is presented as a spiritual dialogue between the statues of Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson, which was unveiled in Trafalgar Square, Bridgetown, the capital city of Barbados, on March 22, 1813, and that of His Right Excellency the late Errol Walton Barrow, the first Prime Minister and national hero of Barbados, unveiled in Independence Square in the city of Bridgetown on January 21, 2007. The Nelson statue stood supreme as a colossal and the only monument in Barbados for over 172 years, until the Busa statue commemorating emancipation from slavery was erected in 1985. The spiritual dialogue between the Nelson statue and that of Errol Barrow is presented as the final discussion on the reasons why the Nelson statue should be removed from the National Heroes Square.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be that slave, I'd rather be buried in my grave. Go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. And before I'd be a slave, I'd rather be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free and go home to my Lord.
I have noticed someone has shown their dislike of you being in Hero Square. That means the time has come for you to get out of my eyesight.
I was here before you.
Get out of my eyesight. My vision and view of the Parliament is being obscured by your presence.
I was here long before you. And if I had my way, you would not be there. Are you not the same person who in 1962 stopped people from celebrating my glorious victory, which, my family argued, was in fact my contribution to this very island?
If you had your way, I would not have been born a free man. I am glad that I took the stance and done away with that foolishness. You never contributed anything to this country.
You're right. You're right. You should have been born a slave, not having rights, let alone challenging my presence here. How dare you? Don't you understand that the majority of people absolutely love my presence here? Even though I loathe most of them, particularly those calling themselves Pan-Africanists. Can you believe it? With all this foolish talk about truth and justice.
The time for truth and justice has come. My people are now showing more appreciation for their history, and they're calling for your removal from such a prominent position, a position that you don't deserve. You ain't no national hero, yet you in Hero Square, a position that should have gone to one of my family members.
It might be true that I am no hero of Barbados and don't deserve such an honor. But the fact remains that I have occupied this position for a very long time. And a number of your close family members still want me here, isn't that so? As a matter of fact, for over 172 years, I have been standing in this very spot as the only hero on this island. I must say, however, there was once a concerning time when I did become a little scared, as a few jokers who thought that they could move me simply only turned me around. And again, when a few others renamed my entire area Hero Square, but left me here. Since then, my family have only increased in their power, and now it is much, much more difficult to have me removed, isn't it?
That is what you think. My colleagues have already identified a new location for you. It's only a matter of time before you are moved. And now that I am here, you will have no peace.
No peace!
Your presence has obscured the judgment in Parliament. Bridgetown is a place that's supposed to have peace. And with a warmonger like you in Bridgetown, there can't be any peace. It is time for you to get out so that there is peace in Bridgetown.
Who are you? Who are you really? How dare you tell me to get out of your sight? 207 years ago, when my family put me here to look out for their interests, people like you had no say in our affairs. Why, back then we could have never imagined that someone like you, who could not have stood in my presence without my permission, mind you, would be in any position to say to me to get out of your sight. These changing times are driving my cousin Willie Lynch absolutely phantasmal. You know, he recently reminded me, and a few of us, that what is happening now is exactly what he was afraid would happen. Because we did not follow his instructions fully, oh God. He knew that we would regret this someday.
Someday, that day has come. Was it not in 1712 that he said his theories for controlling my people would last approximately 300 years? Well, Nelson, I want you to know today that 308 years later, we are about to go to Parliament to debate slavery and racism and ask for reparations.
Reparations? And what is that?
What is that? Restitution, you fool. Compensation for 500 years of slavery and suffering that we had to endure. Your people must pay. Look around the world. Can't you see that your lot is publicly killing black families all the time? Tell me, Nelson, How do you feel standing there while the debate is going on? Would you not rather be someplace else?
If I was honest, and it is very difficult to be honest, when your kind now have the kind of power that my family once had, I would admit that only a fool will not appreciate that my reign here is over. And, as you know, I am no fool. For the past 207 years, I have been standing here in all my majesty, glorifying the fact that my cousin Willie and a few of my relatives sold the likes of you into slavery. I was resting here, peacefully, remembering those good old days. And now you, a new boy on the block, who would have been my property back then, now have the nerve to tell me that I must go. Absolutely ridiculous.
There you go again with your superior attitude. But who the hell are you calling a boy? You have no idea who I am. I am the father of this nation. I may have been in Hero Square for a short time, but I have been around a long, long time, Nelson.
Father of the nation, Lord, have mercy. What is this world coming to? You know, I now understand what Christopher Columbus was saying to me, Willie, and a few of us at our last annual meeting, that because some of our relatives in the churches and the banks of England are now saying sorry to your lot, that you may actually believe, that the rest of you niggers here may actually believe that you have arrived, and may even soon stop calling yourselves West Indians. We have put in so much blood, sweat, and tears.
Whose blood? Whose sweat? Whose tears?
To build up a firm foundation of white supremacy, and now you, of all people, are here telling me that you are the father of this nation. Kind of nonsense is this? A spiritual revolution.
You've got that right. The rays of the likes of you are coming to an end, Nelson. Look at me. I am but a peaceful man. You should be lucky you didn't have to deal with my first cousin, Busa. He said he had some matters to deal with you. Some pressing matters. The way you stood up there when he was sold into slavery, and then 3 years later, he had to lead an uprising that caused the lives of many of my family. But haven't you heard the good news, Nelson?
Good news.
Your cousin Robert, General Robert Lee, is to be removed from his prominent position in the USA. And they're calling for your removal from the columns of Trafalgar Square in London.
No. You're joking. You're joking. That can't be so. I can understand them moving my cousin Robert, but they can't move me. I am a war hero of England.
Your control is over.
My control doesn't matter, boy. You still bow to my very queen, don't
We
you?
don't bow to no queen. We are an independent nation.
Independence, Barrow. A man only truly dies when he is forgotten, and no one will ever forget me, so tell me, who will remember you, huh?
These will remember me, and these people will remember me. I have thought these people to be friends of many and satellites of none. I have asked these people to look and see what mirror image they have of themselves. Nelson, you shall be removed.
The Spirits Speak, executive producer and writer, the Reverend Buddy Larrier. Producer and director, Marcia Weeks. Choreographer, Kelvin Calvajo. Musical director, Corey. Stage manager, Mark Daniel. Actors, Kyle Cozier, portrayed Admiral Lord Nelson. Ishaka McNeil, portrayed Errol Barrow. The dancers, Jade McCollin, Sarah Griffith, Melissa Griffith, Ashley Nichols, Patricia Evanson, Nia Harper, and Aaliyah Niles. The singer was Kian Brown. The drummers, Corey Bradshaw, Zachary Bostic, Tyrese Padmore, Jaden Maskell, and Joshua Doughty. Cinematographer and editor, Don Jamal Weeks. Production assistant, Alex Cropper. Stagehand, Lena Evans. And front of office, Nanita White.
Well, well, well. What an experience that was, Buddy Larrier. Kudos to you and your entire team for putting this film together. I know it was shot outdoors. I really look forward to much more of the same coming out of you and your team. What's next for Buddy Larrier?
Well, but let me tell you how that came about. When the government of Barbados, the BLP, set up the Independence Square and they decided to put Errol Barrow in Independence Square, because the idea was when they removed Nelson from Hero Square, they was going to put Errol Barrow there. But since they didn't remove him and the time had come to create Independence Square, to put Errol Barrow in Independence Square. So from the time they put them there, I said to myself, these two spirits must be at war. And that is where how come I come up with the idea. Now, what we are hoping for, when the government said, though, that they will not be removing, well, they didn't remove him on the 12th of October, so the year is ending, and there's no date that really
Would be significant.
That would be significant, yes. And I'm appealing to the government of Barbados. No need to rush him down to take him down this year. But they said they were going to take him down on the 16th of November. And I'm asking the Prime Minister, please give the people a rationale for the 16th of November. But whenever they decide to take him down, my team want to be present or be part of that. Yes?
Thank you very much, Brother Buddy Larrier. And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you're so inclined, please leave a comment at jockradio@gmail.com. That's JOCRADIO@gmail.com. And also subscribe to this podcast. Until next time, stay safe, be strong, and be aware. I'm Ron Bobb-Semple.